Is this working? What the hell? All right, there it is. I run on a stream delay, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. But anyway, let me know that everything is working and you can hear me and all that sort of stuff. Let me know where you're listening from. I clicked a different series of buttons today, and MC Joe, sorry, you're number 2. Woodland Beachy here. Usually I set the live stream up and then I let it sit for a minute while I do all the back end and all that sort of stuff. And this time I just clicked the go button. So I didn't do any of the back end on this thing. So I'm going to do that really quick while you guys roll in here. And we're going to run for probably about an hour today. Thank you guys for letting me know that the sound is good and everything. I'm a little bit late today because I've been working on a project. Basically, my wife has been out of town for the last 3 days. She, her and her friend that was the maid of honor at our wedding decided about a month or so ago that they wanted to go to New York. And my response was, that sounds awful. Her husband, the maid of honor's husband, said, wow, that sounds awful. So he took the kids, they went to New York, and while she has been gone, I've been doing all the trim in the house, basically. So I finally finished it this morning, all except for like 1 or 2 pieces that have to wait until the new doors get installed on the house. Other than that, all the trim is done in the house, and I also tidied it up this morning. So I'm a little bit late this morning because I wanted to make sure that when I intend to be here when she arrives home. So I want her to be able to walk in and see that all the trim is done and the house is relatively clean, as well as it can be with Finn in the house, So I'm a little bit late this morning because I had another project that I needed to finish up. And I would have just finished it last night, but running an air compressor in a neighborhood at 2 o'clock in the morning is kind of uncouth. I try to be a good neighbor. So anyway, today's stream is mostly going to be on you guys. We can talk about whatever you want. I have one real topic that I want to talk about. And as always, today's live stream is sponsored by 1st Phorm. And that means that we have a giveaway to be filled by me from some of the products that we have here from 1st Phorm. 4 types of their meat sticks, 4 types of their protein bars, and to win this, the best comment, the funniest comment about Hasan Piker wins, basically. So if you guys haven't been following that is... if you don't know who Hasan Piker is, I did a whole video about this incident yesterday, but he is a degenerate, a champagne socialist, if you will, a grifter, a fraud, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he is a very hateful person who says really bad stuff on the internet about what should be done to people like me, basically. And that's not what blew up his situation. That's not what has him in the doghouse today. What that was unintentional. What has him in the doghouse today is, and this has been going on for a couple weeks now, is that basically he got frustrated with his dog and initiated the shock collar on his dog because it wouldn't stand on the mat to be a prop during his live stream, basically. The internet saw it. They've been tearing it apart. And to be honest, I don't even care if it's really... I'll put it like this. That situation is worse than the actual incidental incident, because it's not just the single shock of the dog. The dog looked fine, right? It's the underlying problems with that. The first is that the dog has to be disciplined enough to stand on a mat for a multi-hour live stream anyway. One, that's pretty abusive. And on top of that, the cover-up of it really is, it's oftentimes it's said that the cover-up is worse than the crime. And that's what's going on. If he did zap the dog looked like it was fine. It's a relatively big dog, whatever. But it's the underlying problems. Now, my dog has a shock collar that I've never shocked him with, basically. We thought that we were going to use the Halo collar, and I have it down here, but I'd have to move, whatever. The Halo collar, and this is, the Halo collar. This thing is interesting because this is like an integrated fence device. So you can go to your map, your satellite map, and draw a fence that then the dog can't, once the dog is trained, will activate. So you can set up a fence wherever you want in a couple seconds. It's pretty awesome stuff. However, we determined that we didn't actually need this thing because our dog is terrified of cars. So it doesn't matter. In fact, he won't even give me his ball until I'm in the correct spot so that I can throw the ball and it goes in the opposite direction of the road at this point in time. He doesn't like being anywhere near the road. So this thing was a very expensive thing that we ended up not using at all. So anyway, somebody says that they got a Chevy commercial. That's interesting. It's nice to see that they are advertising on my streams, especially because I am a Ford and Dodge owner, and I would probably never own a Chevy truck. So, you guys remember the Chevy shoes? You guys remember this? The Chevy shoes? They were a real thing that they made. And the joke was, oh, you're going to need those Chevy branded shoes because you're going to be walking. Which coincidentally, my Ford is actually not mobile right now, which which is funny. It's got some kind of transmission problem. I think there's actually, I think it's an electrical problem because I looked at all of the fluids and everything on the transmission. It looks fine. The transmission was working great beforehand, and just all of a sudden, right, won't do anything. This seems like electronic problems. Anyway, so as I mentioned, to win today's live stream prize of a value pack from First Form, funniest Hassan Piker comment, nickname, whatever you want to make, go for it. Let's see here. So, the Crayons, spelled wrong on purpose. That's great. Crayons says, do you think the Democrats' recent attempt to raise the NFA tax to $4,900 will be successful? If so, what do we do moving forward? That's a good question. I think it could very well be successful because we've demonstrated that you can mess with the tax at this point in time. And you have to define what successful means. Does that mean that they can, let's say hypothetically, 2028 rolls around, the Democrats retake control of the government, and they pass a bill similar to what the Republicans just passed, where they mess with the tax and put it back to 200, or they put it up to a historically inflationary number, right? Those words don't work. A number that is historically accurate due to inflation. If your barometer of success is they did a thing, then I think that you could turn them as being successful, yes. Do I think it will stick? No. And the reason I don't think that it will stick is because what you'll be doing at that point in time is you have to think about the state of being currently. These things are everywhere, and they're about to be super everywhere. They could have been considerably more everywhere if the Republicans had done their job and actually gotten rid of all the regulations on them down to the point of like Title I firearms or whatever. Like they could have done that and they would have been ubiquitous. There's still going to be a whole bunch of them coming in January, and we know that because basically all the numbers from all the suppressor manufacturers basically say that the sales have tanked, which means that everybody is basically sitting there waiting for the tax to fall off, and those things are going to sell like hotcakes. They're going to sell out in like the first couple months of 2025, and then they're going to be consistently unobtainium for the rest of 2026, unobtainium for basically all of 2026 into 2027 probably, and then about Q2 2027 you probably see some of them stocking again, and then you'll see that price start to level out, the supply to level out, and then you'll see it gradually start to drop. And then about 2028, somewhere in there, depending on not accounting for the election cycle and all that sort of stuff, you will see either those things spike in price again, or you will see them bottom out, and then you'll see that historically low prices of suppressors thing happen again. That's my projection. But say they take it in 2028, will it stick? No, I don't think it will, because it'll be challenged in court, and it will take a couple years after that to get a decision, basically. But the Firearms Policy Coalition, FRAC, Second Amendment Foundation, all those Gun Owners of America, heck, even the National Rifle Association might jump in on that one. National Association Gun Rights, all of them are going to be chopping at the bit to get a lawsuit in on that one and be the guy that finally kills the NFA. Because what will happen, and this is why I think that I kind of hope that they do if they find themselves in that situation, because what that will ultimately result in is an example of a tax being abused in the modern era. You can say, well, the NFA is an abuse of the taxing power that was perpetrated in the early 1900s, 1930s. But that was then. And there's this constant thing that we do. It's like, well, that was a different time, and they thought different back then. That can't happen now, et cetera, et cetera. Versus today, if they were to do something like that today, the unholy shit fit that would be thrown in the courts, I think, would ultimately result in the destruction of the National Firearms Act, because it would be an example of an abuse. Whereas, like right now, there is a constitutional basis for the lawsuits that are currently going on to challenge the validity of the NFA, but it's off of the backs of the government doing something positive for gun ownership versus like the shoe gets flipped to the other foot quite quickly when the government is doing something that infringes on the rights of citizens. So when you've got government encroachment, the courts are more likely to act in a particular way than when you have kind of the status quo maintained or the pressure being released, if that makes sense. So ultimately, to circle back to the original question, will it be successful? I think in the short term, if they decide to do that, they will be successful in being able to put it on the books. But ultimately, long term, I think that it is a horrible decision from their standpoint because it will ultimately end in the destruction of the National Firearms Act, which I am all for. So I say, let them do whatever the heck they want, and you should have probably bought your stuff before then anyway. So I know that that's not a good take, but you should be in the game at this point in time. You should have been in the game a while ago, but you know, I understand people's reluctance to participate in a government gun registry. I understand it. Anyway, all right. That was a really good question. Now I got to scroll all the way up and figure out where it came from. It was after Crayon's comment. That was a Chevy Ford comment. Hang on a second. Somebody says, let's see here. On the same topic, hang on a second. Where did it go? Let's see. Oh, man, I had it and I was like holding it in place and I lost it. Fat Gray Man. I'm not sure that the $0 tax thing is a positive for us. I feel it's a mixed bag. I think that it could have been better. It should have been better. It wasn't better, and it isn't better. But I see in the next 2 years, 2026, 2027, and 2028 is going to be a wild card because of the election cycle. But 2026, 2027, I think you're going to see unprecedented buying of these devices to the point where they will not exist anymore. I'm going to tell you right now, they are not going to exist. They're going to be hard to find in mid 2026 because they will be everywhere. I want you to look at the figures from 2025, like the first part of 2025. We added as many suppressors in 2025 as there were, or was it 2024? 2024 data. I'd have to go back and look at my own video because they reported on this. But 2025 data added as many suppressors as there were for like the first 80 years of the National Firearms Act. So first part of 2025, like July in. So January, February, March, April, May, June, and July 1st. We added as many suppressors to the NFA registry in private ownership as were in private ownership from 1934 until then. Or it was like, I think it was like 2015 or something like that. Dude, first 80 years, right? That's a hella big deal, right? That's a lot of cans. Think of that now when people don't have the extra $200 expenditure on top of it. I think that they're going to be everywhere. I've already got folks that are ringing my phone off the hook asking me to get them X, Y, or Z can, and I'm fine with that. But when that happens, I probably will break all of that off January 1. I probably won't do suppressor sales as a side thing. First part of probably Q1 in 2026, I probably won't do suppressor sales. I probably won't accept any new sales just because I don't want to deal with it. So ultimately, what that means is that they will be everywhere and they will be harder to regulate. The same thing when like with AR-15s, right? I'm kind of very interested about what happens with the Glock situation out of California. Even though I'm kind of mad at Glock right now, I'm very interested in what happens with the Glock situation because that is a very ubiquitous firearm. Anyway. So somebody asked, the form is answering whatever question. Yes, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here today. Now that said, the NFA is still in place and it still is a registry. It's just untaxed. So there are folks, I 100% understand the argument of not participating in a national gun registry. However, we would not be where we are today if there weren't millions of these things in private possession. So slowing that number down is not a good look. Fat Gray Man, it's clear now that the big bloated backstab was never going to remove suppressors or shorts. I mean, we kind of guessed that was in our internal chats. We knew that the Republicans were gonna fuck this up because that's what they do. They always snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That's kind of their MO. But we were really hoping that we were going to be able to force their hand. So the question is, or the statement is, it will definitely bump the numbers, but it's risky. So my question is, what is the risk? The risk is that they'll put the tax back or make it more expensive. They could have done that at any point in time anyway, because it is a tax measure, right? It is a reconciliation thing. They could have done that last session, but they didn't. So they very well could do that, but even if they did, I think that ultimately just feeling out how it's going to go, I think it would very heavily depend on how the Supreme Court is made up, going forward on that. But if they decide to put the tax at some kind of crazy number, then I suppose if the Supreme Court is stacked the wrong direction, then maybe. But with the current makeup, I don't think that that's going to go. I don't think it's going to go that way. The question is, whatever happened to Wombat? Wombat is well. I actually saw him about a month ago. We went over there for dinner. But Wombat also has a daughter now. Him and his wife adopted a little girl, and he sends me videos all the time of just funny stuff. Speaking of which, I don't know if you guys saw it in one of my videos, but my wife and I are expecting our first child in February of this year. So if you didn't know that, welcome to the club. But we have now told everybody that we believe needs to know in person. And so now we can basically tell the world that, yep, soul for me to corrupt. So that's where Wombat has been. He's been out here a couple times. He'll probably come out deer hunting this year as well. I've also told him that I got a new project in that he needs to come out and shoot. So hopefully he'll come out and do some stuff. The question is, do you have any experience with 3D printed suppressors? I do. And by 3D printed suppressors, I am assuming that you mean direct laser sintered, professionally manufactured suppressors. If you were talking about people doing it in their living room with polymer and all that sort of stuff, those things are junk. All right, they're trash. Do not do that thing. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of paperwork to do your Form 1, et cetera, et cetera. We are assuming that you're going to do this legally, of course, because that's what we're talking about here. But as far as the 3D printed suppressors, what's interesting about 3D printed suppressors is that it allows you to do things that you could not typically do with traditional manufacturing means. Or if you did want to do that with traditional manufacturing means, then it would be more difficult or lower quality. Meaning, like, for instance, let's say, for instance, you got like this lattice with internal structure, right, that makes up your tube, or not your tube, your core, right? You could do that, but you'd have to do it in multiple pieces, right? Like, building that internal structure, traditional manufacturing means you can't do that. We have the ability, if you think about normal regular manufacturing, you have like a mill, object sits straight, device goes around it. You've got a lathe, device spins, tool comes in. There's always kind of like an angle of attack. Now, there's multi-axis mills and stuff like that that allow you to instantaneously change the orientation of the work. So that's beneficial, but you still always have to have a direction of attack on your manufacturing tooling. When we're talking about direct laser sintered 3D printing, which is very cool technology, you basically have this like powder alloy, and then it gets blown around in the chamber, and then there's a high-powered laser that basically instantaneously welds it to the surface, right? It's fascinating stuff. It's great. When you do that, you don't have an angle of attack. The only angle of attack is the direction the laser comes from, and then you're building on top of it. So you can do things that you can't really do very easily, or would be impossible to do in one piece with traditional manufacturing means. And what does that mean for the quality of the devices? You might get an extra 5% on the efficiency of the device, maybe an extra 10% on the efficiency of the device. Maybe, depending on how they've done their flow models and all that sort of stuff. What it really does is unlock the modeling software, because typically when you do like fluid models and stuff like that, it's like, all right, you can create this awesome fluid model that will give you like this performance and that, and you can predict what it's going to look like to a really sharp certainty. But then it's like, all right, well, we've created this awesome thing. As far as concept is concerned, getting it to the physical realm, well, most of the time you'd create awesome stuff and you're just like, well, we can't make that, right? Well, now you can. So that is, that's pretty awesome. Do I think that it's going to impact the sales of like traditional cans with like tube and baffle cans? No, because it's just such a good design as it is. Taking a tube and putting some baffles in it just works. And are you willing to pay the extra premium for the direct laser sintered device? That's up to you. But you're not going to get, like, let's say, for instance, it really depends on what the price is. So, like, let's say, for instance, that the direct laser sintered can, the 3D printed can, is twice as expensive as the complementary equivalent in tube and baffle can. If it's twice as expensive, not worth it. If it's a quarter more expensive, so like 25% more expensive, still no. Okay, it's still no. But if it's only 10% more expensive, okay, there we go. So when those two technologies converge as far as their price is concerned, and they get within like 10% of each other, that's when you're really going to start seeing tube and baffle cans fall off. So as far as, I don't see it happen in the foreseeable future. Anyway, how about the durability of laser 3D printed suppressors? As far as I can tell, they are 1-to-1. And they look, and now that is on the engineering, right? So if you create like some really thin structures, like there's one can that I saw a couple years ago that has since been licensed to somebody else that then disappeared into some black hole in the government. Actually, I don't even know if I can talk about that. Yeah, I probably can't even talk about that now that I think about it. But anyway, that device had a lot of crisscrossing stuff inside of it, and it was relatively thin, but it was made out of Inconel. I would like to see what that looks like after it's had a couple thousand rounds of 5.56 through it, right? Because those tiny little structures taking that kind of blast. Now, if they're farther up in the can, about halfway through the can, you have this is really getting in the weeds, but you have this coalescence of like the heat wave, like where the heat builds, and the pressure wave. And you can see this, like if you shoot a can on full auto, you see somewhere in the middle, they get like really hot first. And you would think traditionally that they would get super hot like at the blast chamber, but no, it's always in the center. Right around there is the coalescence of the heat and the pressure wave, right? And that's why they heat up there in the center the fastest. If you're forward of that, those kind of like really fine structures probably are very survivable. Inside of that window, I'm a little bit concerned about how those things work. But if we're talking about large structures, like we just want some random holes inside of holes type thing, well, that's probably okay. It would depend on the case-by-case basis. But as far as I can see right now, 3D printed suppressors, as far as the direct laser sintered ones, are very durable. It also allows you to work with material that is traditionally difficult to machine, like Inconel. So an Inconel device is very difficult to machine as far as what it does to the tooling. That's one of the reasons it's so expensive. The alloy is expensive to make, more expensive to make than traditional like tool steel or stainless steel or, whatever you want. More expensive, but also machining it burns through more tools, and therefore a machine part coming out of a machine shop made of Inconel is more expensive because you can produce fewer of them per tool that you burn up, right? So anyway, as far as their durability is concerned, I would not tell you to shy away from something that is direct laser sintered, 3D printed, that is professionally manufactured. Now, if you're talking about the home rolled ones that are made out of polymer, don't do that. Generally speaking, they're safe because when a can kind of like gives up the ghost, so to speak, most of the stuff goes downrange. But I have seen some instances where it does detonate outward. So you ought to be careful with that stuff. If you proceed at your own risk, I suppose. Here's a low budget question. No $200 tax. Are the oil filters adapters worth it? And there's another question, a couple questions up here that I want to get to here as well. I don't know. I don't know, because the problem with the oil filter is that it is just a volume device. Yes, there's some internal geometry, right? But it's not as intricate as it needs to be. Remember that it's not just the volume. Now, if you want to do it for this reason, where you're like, haha, I have this thing, it's like a symbol, even though you're registering it anyway, it's a symbol that this is less controllable. If you wanted to buy it for that reason, then sure, go ahead. I mean, really, we're talking about, it's free to sign up for an eForms account. If you're going to be on the NFA registry anyway, what does it matter? You might as well, I suppose, just to have one, even if it's for a Mimi gun, right? That you want to take pictures of and show people, right? Like, I suppose at this juncture, because you're not paying anything, I would go ahead and do one. In fact, I'm going to go order one because I think that that's hilarious. Are you going to get good performance out of it? Not really. Just throwing that out there. Unrelated question. There are no unrelated questions today. This is open topic. Open topic means open topic. We can talk about anything you want. We can talk about the fact that we have a giveaway going on today from First Form, which I actually, now that I think about it, I completely forgot to put this in the pinned comment. If you guys want to support the channel, then you can visit this link that I just pinned, and it will take you to First Form, and it will tell them that I sent you. I'm trying to find the question again. So we have a giveaway going on with First Form Value Pack. Funniest Hassan Piker comment wins. Value Pack 4 and 4. 4 different types of meat sticks, 4 different types of protein bars, sent out by me probably tomorrow. Unrelated question. Are P80s safe, legally speaking? Buddy of mine says that they're good, but I'm not sure I want to risk it. Also enjoying the stream. I am not an attorney, okay? So I can't give you legal advice. But when it comes to what is your concern is my point. I just pulled something up because I wanted to specifically bring this up. Okay. Let's see. This is the ATF's website on privately manufactured firearms. They have a categorization of stuff. Okay. When they are categorizing things, that means that it can be messed with in the future. We've seen the attempt to try to mess with these things up to this point, right? I am not an attorney. I cannot tell you what to do. If your concern is later that they're going to come after you for privately manufacturing your own weapon, then I suppose. Are you talking about obliterated serial number stuff? Because if you're talking about obliterated serial number stuff, it never had a serial number for you to obliterate. It's, as far as I know, in most locales in the United States, it's still legal to manufacture your own firearms. Okay. When it comes to the future stuff that is going to happen, I can't speak to that. I can't really speak to, unless there's an imminent threat of something. I usually tell people that you can't live your life that way. expecting that something's going to happen down the road unless we have an imminent threat of something. Remember that the whole thing about the privately manufactured firearms when it came to the cease and desists and the lawsuits and all that sort of stuff with the ATF were specifically against the companies. They weren't against you. They targeted you through the companies. They basically said, you can't sell this with this and instructions. It never curtailed your ability to do it except for your access to do it. So when it comes to the legalities, I can't tell you what to do future-wise. But as far as everything's concerned right now, they are legal. Now, if your concern is getting rolled up and how that might impact you, if you have a good shoot or something like that, well, those are concerns that you might talk to a lawyer about if you're continuing to carry one of those things. Personally speaking, I carry a Glock that is a non-Glock brand Glock. It is an 80%. Because, to be completely honest, I didn't pay for it, right? It was a demo gun that was basically beat to hell through testing, and then I basically rebuilt the thing, took all the internals out, rebuilt the thing, and now it's basically a new gun because new slide, new internals, all of it. The only thing that's original is frame, basically. So from that, I've got basically a brand new gun to carry around that works fine. And then I use the other guns for range stuff, and that one basically gets fired maybe like 10 times a year type thing, just to clear it out, change the ammo, stuff like that. Would I be hesitant to carry that thing? I don't know. It depends on where you live, man, and what the culture looks in your area. In my area, it's fine, but that doesn't mean it's that way in your area. So as far as 80% and carrying them and stuff like that legally, you do you, man. Brandon H asking questions about HuxWorks. I don't have a whole lot of experience with HuxWorks other than they're kind of loud. As far as like their 3D printing stuff is concerned, they're probably fine. They're just flow-through cans are not as good as traditional cans as far as like you've got max suppression cans, like slow it down, cool it down, and release it slowly, maximum sequestration of gas, and then you've got flow-through cans, okay? And that's a compromise. If you don't want the gas in the face, then the flow-through can, like if that's a really important thing to you, then the flow-through can is probably important to you. Just understand that it's going to be louder. It just is. Like, you can't defeat the laws of physics. If you want to maximally suppress that gun, maybe you would be better off if you're using it on like an AR platform or something like that, that you put an adjustable gas block on the son of a bitch. And then you can just turn the gas down. I suggest the rifle speed gas control. It's not the cheapest thing out there, but it is the best adjustable gas block on the market. I highly recommend it. We have multiple videos on that thing. You should check that thing out. And that thing paired with a suppressor is the way to go. Now, you might have a firearm that may not be compatible with adjustable gas blocks. Like particularly, like my favorite application for a flow-through can is on like an AK, because those guns typically are not compatible by and large with any kind of adjustable system, right? There are ones out there, but they're less common. Like you can't just go buy a Wasser 10, go buy an adjustable gas block and put the two together and the thing will function flawlessly. There's going to be more work in there. And then there'll be more work again once you put the can on it. So like, it's not as plug and play as it is with an AR. a flow through can is probably the best thing that you can put on that thing. It's gonna be great, relatively speaking. But when you're comparing like a traditional like American weapon with adjustable gas block, you're better off going max suppression with an adjustable block than you are flow through. But that's my opinion. So your mileage may vary, and you know what? A whole bunch of you are going to be doing this in 2026 that have never done it before. Maybe you'll have a different perspective, and you can email me and tell me that I'm an idiot. That'd be great. Anyway, I want to build a semi-custom bolt gun. Which action do you recommend? I'm thinking used rifle, but not sure. So I think that it's very difficult to go wrong even today with like the Remington 700 series type guns, because there's so much stuff that's out there that's available. So if you don't have a problem, it depends what you're trying to do. If you're going to build it, probably the best value that you can get right now are the Bergara guns. You buy one of the cheap Bergaras and then just strip it down, and put whatever you want on it, right? If it's a project gun that you're going to do over the course of a while, man, I tell you what, it's hard to beat buying like a B-14 and dropping it in a chassis. I mean, these days, you can get that done for probably sub $1,000 without the glass, right? Yeah. I was thinking about powdered manual manufacturing. Would that be viable? I'm assuming that was a reference to previously. That's what we're talking about. Direct laser sintered, right? So see all the comments on direct laser sintered. As far as like purchasing yourself, way too expensive for a home dealio. Let's see here. Oh man, the chat reset. Son of a bitch. So I gotta go. Fine. High points for the oil filters for the memes. Yes, I agree. I actually spoke to my person at High Point, and I have some High Points en route right now. I mean, not right now, it's Sunday, but probably this week we'll have some High Points arriving. Unless you're good, less reliable. If you own an 80%, you are safe, but you cannot sell them without an FFL. You can buy and sell new 76 lowers because the trigger housing, you know what, I'm not going to get into the weeds of that sort of stuff, right? Whatever the hell. I've kind of checked out in that sort of thing. I understand people wanting project guns and stuff like that. Like, I get it. And as somebody who carries an 80%, I'll be real and say that I never did that 80%. Like, that specific one, I did not do. That was done by a company that did it on their machines and sent me a serialized lower that was complete. Okay. I have done 80% before, and I've had good success, and I've had not so good success. My earliest ones, not so good. As I became more technically savvy when it came to firearms and the nuances of some of the intricacies of doing 80%, sure, I got better. But if you think that it's a cost thing where you're going to like save money or something like that, you're not. You're going to spend way more because you're going to screw it up and you're going to have to redo it. It's not going to work quite as well. You do more of them. You also get bit by the bug of building them and all that sort of stuff. What keeps me from doing 80% is I don't have fucking time. Okay. I've got like 3 businesses and a farm and a child on the way, right? Like I ain't got time. I also don't live where my business is anymore. So like I have to like commute. I got to take care of the dog. Hey, buddy. Let's see. And again, all that 80% stuff is going to be state law dependent as well. So, you know, that's an important thing. Matthew Marding says, Curtis, do you have any interest in radio, specifically to do with ATAC? So interesting that you say this. I'm interested in kind of like all things nerdy, right? I actually took a radio course last year. It was a very good radio course. I had a lot of fun. I've taken radio-related stuff before. I've used radio stuff before, but most of my radio stuff up to that point was like, here's a radio, use it. But what's interesting is that my brother actually works for a communications company in the defense industry. So I've gotten more into radios than I have ever really cared to get into radios. And I should probably have him on to discuss that sort of stuff at one point in time. Maybe we're having some lazy time over the winter. Maybe he'll come on and discuss with us about radios and stuff. So, question is, are you an eggnog drinker or an apple cider drinker? Here's the thing. I basically can't drink alcohol anymore. I limit myself to like industry events and social events with like industry stuff, or I suppose drinks with my wife up until like the last 6 months because she's 6 months pregnant. I have non-alcoholic, or what they would call metabolic induced fatty liver disease. And I exercise, like I don't know what it is, right? It's just, I got a bad one, okay? And I've done enough evil to it up to this point in my life that it is basically at the point where I have to stop drinking. Even though the drinking isn't what actually caused the liver damage, it was fatty deposits from diet and stuff like that. I'm just predisposed to store fat in my liver. Even though, like, I'm overweight, but I'm not that overweight. I'm like 20 pounds overweight. I'm not like morbidly obese or anything like that. I could probably, and by overweight, we're talking about BMI, right? Which we all know doesn't really apply to anybody who's ever picked up a weight in their entire life. And that's a direct quote from my doctor, like literally 3 days ago. She was like, yeah, you know, your BMI's high, but like you lift weights 6 days a week. So does that really matter? Like, so but when it comes to any of those kind of things, when we're talking eggnog or cider, can't have either of them right now. So even talking about it kind of makes me want them. But I like both of them. Personally speaking, I would be more of an eggnog person because I don't like super sweet stuff. But I do like apple cider. You know, it's pretty good. Anyway, let's go down here. Oh, we have a new member. Look at that. We got Ferrer joined as a member of the anti-censors. So that's at the end of the videos. We always have like a list of supporters, stuff like that. I'm going to make a note of that so that I'm going to put it right on my sheet here to add him to the list since we saw it live. You guys saw it live. All right, cool. So let's go back up here. Let's find some, so I'm, as far as like drinking and stuff like that, I really like whiskey. And if I was going to drink something, I would drink the whiskey. And it would be in a social setting with my friends in the industry, or a special occasion, or like an old fashioned with my wife or something like that. That's kind of the settings that I allow myself to drink at this point in time. And to be honest, it's better for my life anyway to not participate in these kind of activities. It's just, it's just I'm kind of shoehorned into a particular status of behavior at this point in time. More comments about 80%. Yeah, you're building them to build them, not to make them cheaper or better. Whatever you're into, man. So at that point in time, we got another member join. Look at that stuff. We got another anti-censor. We got Krellian. Gonna add that one as well to the end of the credits. So thank you guys very much for joining. I appreciate you for doing that. Definitely supports the channel. Are you aware of any way to build a bolt gun without serial numbers? I don't think my ARs are going to do what I want them to do. I'm not. I mean, I'm aware that you could go get a block of metal and mill it out. You could go buy a lathe in a mill. You could make one without a serial number that way, but I don't, personally speaking, I don't really, I don't know, maybe I've just been doing this too long. The serial number, like, for the most part, I don't even mind showing the serial numbers on video that I publish online. I guarantee you can find a gun video on this channel and you will be able to find the serial number of that weapon. I just don't care. So I understand some people don't want that information published. Got it, right? I understand the arguments why. I don't really understand the buy a bolt gun or make a bolt gun without a serial number type thing. I don't understand that sort of thing. But anyway, gonna need a bigger place before I can buy fancy machine tools. Yeah, same thing. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I just did the trim in our little house, and we're out of space. We don't even have our kid yet. So yeah. Okay, so pizza, yeah, pizza is one of the reasons that I'm fat. Yep. But I can't really eat pizza anymore either because, so this is super sad. All right. As someone who grew up as Italian, I actually tomorrow am going in for an ultrasound and blood test because I've been having a digestive problem. This is probably too much information surrounding wheat products. So I am simultaneously having my gallbladder ultrasounded to see if there's any kind of like stones or anything in there, or if I'm also getting a blood test to determine whether I have celiac disease or not, because I cannot eat bread. Like at all. Like, so as an example, I keep a box of Eggo waffles here at the office because Finn eats everything like in one bite immediately, like gone, right? But he will take an Eggo waffle and he'll walk over to his pen, his little safe spot, and he will hold it between his paws and he'll nibble little bits off of an Eggo waffle. And it's the funniest thing ever, right? A dog that inhales everything. So I keep them here as a treat for him every once in a while. Well, before my doctor's appointment this week, I determined that this was a problem probably like 2 months ago, that I've got a wheat problem. I don't know what it is, but I hadn't eaten any wheat products for like 2 months, and I was feeling great. And then I came in just to check myself. I had 2 Eggo waffles. And I'm telling you that I did not leave the bathroom like all afternoon. It was awful. It's like localized pain over here, and then intestinal. So I can't eat pizza because it's got bread on it. So I'm basically back to my normal diet of dead animal, vegetable, add heat. That's what I eat these days. And that's probably better. It's probably a good thing. But we're trying to get to the bottom of it, figure out what's going on with it. So we actually have resolution of what it is. Somebody says, Second Amendment, Yoass says, I believe BMI is in relation to strain on your cardiovascular system. 250 fat is 250 lean, is still 250 on your heart. Yes and no. Yes and no. Are you better off being 250 pounds lean? Yes. I think that this is a holdover from the last era. And what you've seen is a whole bunch of bodybuilders have these heart problems, dying early, and all that sort of stuff. And these are bodybuilders from like the 1980s, 1990s time frame. And they all have like congestive heart failure and heart problems and pulmonary problems and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, oh, well, you had strain on your heart from being big and bulky. No, they abused fucking steroids. And that's why they got heart problems. If you're using juice, that's bad. Stop using juice. Equating the two, I don't think there's any way that you can say that somebody like The Mountain is equivalent in health to Michael Moore. All right? They're about the same. I mean, as far as my internet math is concerned, they're the same weight, mass. One of them is a sloppy piece of shit, and the other one throws truck tires across the screen, right? So, yeah, not equivalent. So I don't think I think it's a very simplistic view of weight and health and all that sort of stuff. No pizza. How could a person live? Yeah, it sucks. No beer, no pizza. Yep. I'll know. I will report to you guys this week what comes from that. But yeah, I will let you know if I indeed have that. It sucks. Yeah. The problem is eating fatty meats. No. Fatty meats does not cause fatty liver disease. That is the exact opposite of what causes fatty liver disease. Fatty liver disease comes from increased, consistent blood sugar levels. And my blood sugar just kind of runs high. It has always run high since I got like my first blood tests when I was a teenager, right? My blood sugar was always kind of like at the higher end of normal. And that is how you get fatty liver disease. Not alcoholic fatty liver disease, but non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is not caused by the amount of fat that you consume. It is caused by the amount of sugar that you consume and anything that gets turned into sugar. That is what causes fatty liver disease. Somebody asked if Combat Wombat is still gay. Well, his wife is relatively attractive, and he does have a kid. I have no indications that he was ever gay. So there's that, right? He was my roommate in college, so you would think I would know that sort of thing. Let's see. Somebody says no. Ferrer says no. The issue from the 80s and 90s was beer plus steroids. Okay, excuse me. Drinking beer and taking steroids at the same time probably not a good. Somebody says David Hogg got deported. No, he didn't. Did he? How? He's an American citizen. Isn't he an American citizen? Hang on, I gotta check myself. Somebody might be trolling me right now. Hang on. Uh, David Hogg is an American citizen, right? He was born in Los Angeles. Yeah, he's an American citizen. Um, Yeah, so the question in the chat, or now we've devolved in the chat to our cuts of meat, which I greatly appreciate. My family has owned a like hobbyist beef farm for the since I was since I was 6. So we've always kind of had access to our own beef. I do buy beef and all the other meats, but it is nice to have access to our own like closed circuit beef. And I will say that I do like our stuff considerably better than what we purchase in the store. Personally speaking, I don't like Wagyu. Um, I think that for the cost of Wagyu, it is unjustified for the quality of meat that you get, in my opinion. I prefer just a good old fashioned ribeye, right? Actually, the best cut, the best cut on the entire animal is the skirt steak. If you do it right, you have to do the skirt steak. You take the skirt steak. It's a long cut of meat that's kind of rolled up. You take that and you just marinate it for a little bit, just a little bit. And then you take it out and you put it on a rip-roaring hot grill with the silver skin still on it. That's important. One side will have silver skin and fat, a fat cap on it. You take that and you put that down on the heat. You let it do all of its cooking on that side. And then right before you pull it off, you flip it over to the other side, get yourself a sear, pull it off, and slice it. And then basically what you do is you on your plate, you cut the meat so that the silver skin comes off, and then you eat the actual meat itself, and the silver skin fat cap will be left on your plate. You can take little chunks of it and eat it along as you go. But then the rest of it's like dog treats, right? Best cut of meat. Best cut of meat if you have access to a grill. Got to be grilled. Can't pan fry it. Can't pan fry it. Um, um, yeah, that whole thing about David Hogg getting deported, it's not real. So just, yeah. Do you prefer steak well done? Absolutely not. I'm more of a like blue rare kind of guy. Um, if I am going to a steakhouse, I will order it medium rare. My brother, Bacon, he orders his rare. I won't order a rare steak from an establishment because unless I'm going to like a high-end steakhouse or something like that. If I'm going to the Roadhouse or whatever, then I order my stuff medium rare. I cook mine myself, usually a blue to medium rare in there. It really depends on what else I'm cooking. Like it's sometimes difficult to do that because I'm cooking for my wife too, and she likes her stuff well done. So like sometimes like I'll cook mine blue rare and I'll put it under like a tin and then it'll come up to medium rare. Ruins. She likes her steak ruined, but it is what it is. Um, 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 Ferrer, I don't understand what Ferrer's most recent comment is. Sorry, on the stream. So he's got to wash the roids down with something. Might as well be beer, brother. So I actually stopped drinking beer like years ago. I have a beer every once in a while with friends, but like I transitioned mostly to whiskey for the calories. I was going to the gym like 6-7 days a week, and just drinking the calories didn't make sense to me, so I switched to whiskey. Well, now I can't realistically have any of it, so there's that. But anyway, so Henry Rice says, stop supporting Israel. Well, when it comes to Israel, I think I have a take that is perhaps a little bit different than everyone. But before we get to that, I would remind you that we have a giveaway going on with First Forum today. Best Hassan Piker comment wins the value pack. And we'll give preferential treatment, of course, to the live stream, but VOD comments work as well. Best Hassan Piker comment, nickname, whatever, make fun of the dude. Funniest one wins, and you win a value pack. 4 types of meat sticks, 4 types of protein bars. And if you want to learn more about First Form, then you can use the link in the pinned comment to go over there and check out their wares, and it tells them that I sent you. And if you buy anything, then ultimately it generates sales back to the channel for like forever. So special thanks to First Form for making today's live stream possible. When it comes to Israel, and this is a giant landmine, so here it is. As a Christian, I am supposed to have good things to say about Israel. Some of those good things are that they test our weapons for us. They use some of our stock that's getting ready to go out of date. So for those of you who don't know, like rockets, missiles, even bullets, when it comes to military supplies, have an expiration date on them. We sell that stuff to Israel so that we can make more of it and put our current stock back on the shelf for our strategic reserves and stuff like that. So those are 2 good things that Israel does. I would also say that they are the giant bullet magnet that America deserves. There's a whole lot of people that hate Israel, and they are geolocated closer to... let me back that up. There are a whole lot of people that hate America, and those same people also hate Israel. Those people are geographically located closer to Israel, and oftentimes they are of a particular status where they are incapable of getting or effectuating any kind of plans over here. So they are more likely to use that particular location as an outlet for whatever it is that they are misguidedly going to do. Like I said, as a Christian, I'm supposed to have good things to say about Israel. However, when it comes to the land of Israel, Judea, and all of it, personally, I think the kingdom of Jerusalem should rise again. And we'll just leave it at that. Somebody says, that's why our ammo is so expensive. I mean, it is a real thing. Like, it is a real thing that ammunition, rockets, missiles, et cetera, bombs, they have expiration dates. They do. And that is just, some of that is propellant related. Some of it is bullshit. And it's like one of those things where we got to it's like Frank's Red Hot. Does it have an expiration? Can it really expire? I mean, maybe if you drink, I just said drink Frank's Red Hot. If you consume like 4/5 of the bottle of Frank's Red Hot, it's one of the big ones, and you like let it sit on you like open it every single day, and you let that headspace basically deplete all the, I suppose at some point in time it probably would go bad, but can anything actually live in the bottle of Frank's Red Hot? I mean, maybe it's a breeding ground for some new extremophile or something like that. I don't know. But, thank God somebody's going back to cooking steaks here. So, when it comes to, cooking steaks, it depends on the thickness. Yes, that's correct. What you should do, in my opinion, if you're going to pan fry, is you should use a high temperature oil like avocado oil. I used to use olive oil, but it burns too quickly. You should use avocado oil, and then you finish them in butter. So if you're pan frying, so you basically put the thing down, a couple minutes each side, and then you put like 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter in there, and you baste the steak to finish it out, right? And then after you've reached the desired crust level of that, and in that butter, that's where you put your finishing spices. Like, the only thing that I put on my steak before I start searing it is salt. Other than that, and I actually have to eat more salt. My doctor tells me that I don't eat enough salt. So I've actually started adding salt to everything. But you salt the steak, you put it in the avocado oil, you start it cooking, and then when you put your butter in, your couple tablespoons of butter in there, that's where you're going to put any finishing spices you're going to put into it, like rosemary or garlic or any of that sort of stuff. You do that in the butter, and you baste that onto the steak, and that is going to work it into the flesh. Otherwise, it's just going to burn, right? You're most of the way cooked. There are 3 stages of cooking in a pan with steak. There's the primary cook, the finish cook, which is done in the butter, and then there's the rest time. And that goes, you should rest your steaks. They should rest, in my opinion, under aluminum foil for 5 minutes. But that's me. If I'm doing them on the grill, by contrast, that's a completely different situation. And you basically, that whole timeline shrinks considerably, because if you're doing all the same stuff, you need one of those basting brushes and stuff like that. If you're doing all that sort of stuff, the temperature's considerably hotter. You're probably not going to get as good. And I basically skip the middle step. I basically put the salt on, put it on the grill, and then when I finish it is actually under the aluminum foil. That's when I put the pepper on, because your pepper, if you're putting pepper on your steak before you put it on the flame or in the pan, you're burning your pepper. Anyway. Life's too short to eat crappy food. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Don't get me wrong. I really like fried stuff. I'm not really a potato guy per se. I do like a French fry every once in a while, but it's pretty hard to buy French fries in public because they use like seed oils and stuff like that. I can't really eat that because of the fatty liver situation, right? So I can't really eat French fries because like that is part of the reason that I have fatty liver. So I have to stay away from that sort of stuff. Salt. Yeah, I got to have, somebody says, yeah, your doctor's saying that. Yeah, my doctor's like, dude, you got to eat more salt. It went like this. It's like, dude, he's looking at my labs. Do you eat salt? I mean, a little bit every once in a while, but not very much. And the question I assumed was, hey, there's something in your labs. You eat too much salt. And then they're like, add salt to everything because you don't eat enough type stuff. So, and it has to do with it's a hydration level thing. I do drink a lot of water too. Pepper burns. Yes, it does. Anyway, propane is the devil's gas, Bobby. That's hilarious. Yes, that's actually great. Propane for speed, charcoal for flavor. Yeah. The problem with charcoal, I think, in most applications is I think that people let their steak spend too much time on the charcoal grill because then it just comes off tasting like charcoal. Your steak, you don't have your steak, you don't have your charcoal up, your pan up high enough. Your charcoal needs to be like, if you're cooking steaks, your charcoal needs to be like right up against the flames should be coming up through the bars. We're talking like it ought to be like, if with the grill closed with charcoal underneath of it ought to be like 800 fucking degrees in there, boys and girls. When you're cooking a charcoal steak, in my opinion, you should leave the actual grill top open. Excuse me. You should not close the grill top. You put the steak down, and we're talking like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, tops, on that rip roaring hot. Then you flip it, and then you're done, and it goes under the aluminum foil, and it rests. But let's just be real. Sometimes propane is just easier. I actually cook a lot more on the grill with propane or with charcoal in the wintertime because propane is really difficult to use in the wintertime. I like to grill year round. Anyway, let's get off food for a second. I do have one topic that I want to talk to you guys about here today. And before we go into that, I want to remind you that we have a giveaway going on with First Form. And if you want to win, then you need to place a comment in the comment section down below. Best comment about the fact that Hassan Piker shocks his dog for no good reason. Right? Loser. Best comment wins. Value pack. 4 different types of meat sticks. 4 different types of protein bars. And we will pick a winner. So the thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is something that I think is really important for you guys to pay attention to, and I guarantee you most of you are missing it. Most of you are missing the fact that the battlefield when it comes to public ideas and public perception is no longer being fought on the airwaves, right? Like those, you guys know that basically you watch Fox News, it says one thing, not always correct. They're very rhino-y. If you watch CNN, you get the other perspective, and they're both completely off. Okay, they're both decided, and they're completely off base. The discussion is no longer happening there. You know that it's happening here, right? What you don't realize is that where the next generation of conversation, public or political discussion is happening is on live streams for video game content. Look at the numbers that like somebody like Asmongold is pulling down. I hate to say it, but look at the numbers somebody like Hassan Piker or Destiny is pulling down. ungodly numbers. If I had a fraction of those numbers that those people were able to pull down, and they're using this as a vehicle to discuss these topics that would otherwise just be sort of kind of dry, that nobody really wants to talk about. But because it's paired with something that is also simultaneously entertaining, it opens that discussion up at a level that has never been seen before. That is simultaneously a good thing and a bad thing. Because as people who work, generally speaking, you and I aren't engaging in those conversations. I like video games. Don't get me wrong. I play games. Many of you know that I actually have a second channel, or third channel, I suppose, that is called The Art of Save Scumming, and I play Total War Warhammer 3. It's like kind of my game. So I participate in that community. So I like gaming. But these gaming streams are huge. And somebody says, Tomahawk says, calling Hassan and Destiny gamers is very misleading. You're right. It is very misleading. But they do that thing. They use those games as a vehicle to talk about these political issues. I'm not being misleading, but that's what they're doing. It is a propaganda apparatus. They are using what is popular for the next generation, and I would say my generation. They're using those entertainment sources as a means to an end. Is their primary playing video games? No. It's propaganda peddling. But they're using those things to reach young, squishy minds to subvert them. And I can already see it in the comments right here. Some of you guys don't get it. And I understand why. Because it's a couple steps removed from what we would typically consider something that matters. But it absolutely does matter. And it is huge industry. Absolutely huge. What these folks are able to accomplish. And I would say that as someone who is engaging in political discourse, specifically in the firearms space, I have to start playing a role in that sort of stuff. Like, even if it's just tuning into some of those live streams, like maybe Asmongold's live stream or something like that, I have to start being part of that conversation, even if I'm not actually streaming it for political purposes. I have to, because if we aren't part of that conversation, then we are going to get left behind, and it's very, very dangerous to not be participating in that kind of discourse at all. I don't see anybody who is pushing any kind of Second Amendment stuff in the gaming space. I don't have time to do it. I know that the guys from Tundra do. I take that back. Now that I think about it, there are some guys in the Second Amendment space that do Donut Operator, and those guys. That's not fair. Yeah, we have some people that are doing it, but I would say that the vast majority of people who care about firearms and firearms rights and future expansion of those are not participating in that discussion, and we are ceding that ground to our opposition. Because, while some of those folks that are doing it on our side are pretty big. There's even more of them that are just as big on the other side. So I'm bringing it to your attention because it's there. You should be aware of it. I'm telling you that it's going to be the next battlefield of ideas. The good news is that Twitch is basically tanking right now through their own doing. And Twitch is basically becoming irrelevant. So that might actually slow this down a little bit, but that doesn't mean that Kick isn't going to pick up the slack. YouTube's already picking up the slack as far as the market share is concerned. So the good news is that some of those folks, that platform is not doing well. And I don't know how long it lasts, especially because the most recent controversy with Twitch is like literally a couple days ago. They had TwitchCon, or was it yesterday? Maybe it was Friday. TwitchCon happened, and they did not take security seriously at Twitch con, and they literally, one of their female streamers was sexually assaulted, like literally in front of everybody. And Twitch wasn't going to do anything about it. You know what they did about it? They found the dude who conducted the assault and banned him for 30 days. That's what they did to the dude after all the public outcry. Yeah. So the good news is Twitch is basically done. So that will slow that down. But Ferrier says, VSO, it isn't going to be. It already is. And I agree with him, right? But what I'm doing is bringing this to the forefront that when you see these guys out there doing this sort of stuff, support them who are doing it right. There's also some folks that are kind of, I'm going to say, on a collision with us in a good way. One of the guys that I've been watching for years is Metatron. And I am convinced that at some point in time, we're going to see videos of Metatron out there just ripping machine guns. All right. I am convinced at some point in time that he is going to be one of us, because he's already started what I'm going to call the Darth spiral. He's come to the dark side. And you know, what really did it was the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I guess what I would say is, hey, bro, you don't know me from Adam. Been watching for years. If you want to come shoot, let me know where you're at. Right? We'll make it happen. But you can see that there are people that traditionally have not waded into that side of things, particularly when it comes to civil rights and human rights, and specifically what we talk about, Second Amendment rights here on this channel, that are, if they're not there already and have a shoe into it, they're headed there, and they're headed there in a very big hurry. And I, for one, am looking forward to them getting here. Somebody says, oh, yeah. Yeah, Metatron is red pilling hard. Yeah, he is. And somebody says, let's see, Steve W., a 30-day ban that totally can't be circumvented with a different email address, I'm sure. And for yeah, I agree. I get it. I also subbed to Metatron. No, he already is. Yeah, he's on the way. He's on his way, right? And there's some other folks. I hope that I'm not so sure about Charlie. Maybe he's headed our direction. I think he is headed our direction. I think that he's maybe on the way. Shadiversity. Yeah. If he, the question, the comment is Shadiversity moved to America, he also would be. I think that he might be on his way to moving to America. I think that he might see the writing on the wall And he might, like, if you look at his most recent videos, basically, if you guys haven't been paying attention to this, he lives in Australia, and Victorian Australia has recently instituted a machete ban, and they're just continuously marching, right? They're heading in the direction of, like, you can't own a kitchen fork, right? It's going that direction. And I think that perhaps they might be headed towards American citizenship, perhaps. We've seen lots of folks do that. We've seen people do that specifically because of did Matt Easton do it? Was it Matt Easton that did it? Is he still in the UK? Like, I don't even know if, yeah, they're still in Great Britain. Yeah. But I think at one point in time he was talking about moving to the United States for freedom reasons. That would be great. I would love to open invite all those dudes. Chad, Skylar Graham, Scholar Gladiatoria, all those guys, right? Open invite. You guys are in the United States for something, you want to go blow something up, call me. But yeah. And it's all around, those guys are mostly like medieval and edged weapons stuff, but the regulations in those places have now deteriorated to the point of, like, now they're going after the edge weapon stuff, right? And I told you so. But at the same time, welcome to America. Yeah, I know that. So here's the thing. So Moist Critical has already outed himself as being a gun owner. But just because somebody is a gun owner doesn't mean that they are willing to go to the level of Second Amendment protection and advocacy that somebody like we are, right? So, like, the question is, like, I think very soon, for instance, I think the one that is developing the fastest is probably Metatron, right? I fully expect within the next year or two that we are going to see hard Second Amendment stances from him, for instance. Actually doing videos talking about the civil right of Second Amendment. I think that he's headed in that direction. Will we see somebody like Charlie? I don't know. He's a little bit more, I don't want to be mean because I like him. I can't come up with any good adjectives here. He's a little bit more nuanced. He comes at things a little bit more calculated when it comes to, is this the right perception or the right video to make? That's how I perceive what he does. He always comes out with stories like a week later than everything to make sure that it's safe. And that's not very nice to say, but it's kind of the truth, right? It's pretty easy to have a base take when the numbers are in. And again, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I like the dude, but anyway. Pretty sure Metatron is in California. He might be, I don't know. That's unfortunate for him, but maybe he can convince his wife that they need to move to someplace else. But it wouldn't shock me because he is an immigrant, right? He is an immigrant to the United States. So a lot of immigrants come in through those directions, right? They'll come into major metro area type stuff. And I know that he is a citizen by marriage as well. So, so if his wife was a California resident, then it wouldn't surprise me that that's where they live, right? So I don't have any data on that. I'm not trying to, one way or another, but that would definitely slow his development down a little bit, I think. But um, Shad with a deuce or a lever action like that one back there, yeah, would be an amazing collab. Yeah, hey, like if they want to do it, they're welcome to come out. I got a couple hundred yards of range, 360 degrees that we can use. But anyway, I don't know who you're referring to. As somebody says, Steve W says he's not going to burn the gun grabber ad money. I don't know who you're referring to, but I don't know about that sort of thing. Nobody will ever allow the comment is, but will the powers allow the 2A to win? That's the question. The powers will never let the 2A win. We have to fight for it. We have to win. But anyway, we have run almost 2 hours today, guys. So that went a lot farther than I thought it was. I had an extremely good time today. And remember that if you want to get in on the giveaway from First Form, that you just have to leave a funny comment about Hassan Piker, and we will, and I will come back probably tomorrow sometime and announce the winner. It will be posted. The last one, nobody claimed the prize. So you guys got to pay attention to, I will have it posted as a post on the channel tomorrow and on the VOD in the pinned comment of this live stream. So if you want to check back, make sure you check back, and you gotta send me an email after it's announced, because I gotta have your address to ship you this stuff. So anyway, like I said, value pack of meat sticks, value pack of protein bars. Thank you guys for tuning in, and very much looking forward to making content for you this week.